Lesson 2.8, rounding decimals. Let's take a look at the example that's worked out here for us. We're given a starting decimal of 3 and 725 thousandths, and first asked to round this decimal to the nearest whole number. So since we're rounding to the nearest whole number, in this case, think about that as the ones place value. We are underlining the place value, the ones place value that we're rounding to. And then we are taking a look at the digit to its right. If this digit is 5 or more, then we raise the score on what we've underlined and drop everything else. However, if this digit was 4 or less, then we give the digit we've underlined a rest, which means we leave it unchanged and then drop everything else. Okay, so in this case, we're underlining the 3 that's sitting in the ones place. We're looking at the digit to its right, which is at 7. This digit here is 5 or more. That means we raise the score. We bump up this digit by 1. 3 becomes a 4. Drop everything else to the right. Now, let's say that we're looking at this same original decimal, but now we are trying to round it to the nearest tenth place. That means if you imagine a number line that is divided into tenths, is this decimal closer to 3 and 7/10 or 3 and 8/10? Well, let's underline the place value that we're rounding to. Let's look at the digit to its right. It's a 2. 2 is 4 or less. So we give what we've underlined a rest. That means it remains unchanged. Drop everything else. 3 and 7/10. Finally, if we were to round this same original decimal to the hundredths place, underline the 2 in the hundredths place. The digit to its right is a 5. This digit, of course, being a 5, is 5 or more. That means we raise the score on what we've underlined. The 2 becomes a 3. Drop everything else to the right. Okay, let's practice this. First, we're going to round to the nearest whole number. And when you see whole number, think ones place on your place value chart. So I'm going to underline the 4. And I'm going to look at the digit to its right. The 3 is 4 or less. That means I give this 4 a rest. That stays a 4. And I drop everything else. That's to the right. 23 and 59 hundredths. Underline the 3. Look at its neighboring digit to the right. This digit is 5 or more. Therefore, I raise the score on this. The 2 in the tens place was never really going to be impacted one way or the other, so that stays the same. What I've underlined, we're raising the score on. The 3 becomes a 4, and I drop everything else to the right. 8 and 85 hundredths. I look at the 8 here. It is 5 or more. That means I raise the score on the 8 that I've underlined. That becomes a 9. Drop everything else. The next set of practice problems, I'm rounding to the nearest tenth place. Let's underline that. Here, the neighboring digit to the right is 5 or more. That means I raise the score on what I've underlined. And drop everything else to the right. So you're starting to see the pattern, right? Whatever you've underlined, anything that's to the left of it stays on. That's unchanged. What you've underlined is either going to remain as it is or it's going to increase by 1. And then everything to the right of what you underlined is going to get dropped. Number 5, 3 and 292 thousandths. I'm underlining the 2 that's in the tens place. I'm looking at the digit to its right, which is a 9. 9 is 5 or more. That means I raise the score on what I've underlined. Nine and 49 thousandths. I underline the 0 in the tens place. I look at its neighboring digit to the right, 4. This 4 is 4 or less. That means I give this a rest. The 0 remains a 0. Number 7, now we're rounding to the nearest hundredths. So I'm going to underline the 0 in the hundredths place. Its neighboring digit to the right is 5 or more. So I raise the score on what I've underlined. Four and 484 thousandths. Underline the 8 that's in the hundredths place. Look at its neighboring digit to the right. This is 4 or less, so I give what I've underlined a rest. Two and 624 thousandths. Underline the 2 that's in the hundredths place. Look at the digit to its right. The digit to its right is 4 or less, so I'm going to give what I underlined a rest. Now, we're being asked to estimate each sum or difference, okay? And so in this first example, it's a money example, $36.98 plus $22.25. We can round this up to $37. We can round this down to $22 and then add them together. 37 and 22 gives us an estimate of $59. Over here for 11, we're subtracting 2 decimals. We can, just for the purpose of an estimate, we could round each of these decimals to the tenths place, and let's see what that would look like. 3 and 634 thousandths would get rounded down to 3 and 6 tenths. 2 and 292 thousandths would get rounded up to 2 and 3 tenths. 3 and 6 tenths minus 2 and 3 tenths gets us an estimate of 1 and 3 tenths. Looking at 12, I think we'll use a similar way of rounding. Let's round to the tenths place. 689 thousandths is going to get rounded up to 7 tenths. 527 thousandths is going to get rounded down to 5 tenths. So our estimate, 7 tenths plus 5 tenths, 1 and 2 tenths. $9.25 minus $3.89. Okay, let's round to the nearest whole number, the ones place. $9.25, we'll round that down to 9. $3.89, we'll round that up to 4. 9 minus 4 gets us an estimate of $5. $5 foot long.